COVID-19 has disrupted lives as we know it on this planet. Students across the world are impacted, and that includes international students here at IU and in the United States. COVID-19 first appeared in China at the end of 2019. It hit Asia, Europe, and then North and South America. The world is still fighting against the virus, and people are suffering because of the uncertainty in their futures. A new semester is coming and students are already back to school. For students, do they want to pay the same tuition when they might not get the same quality of education, especially if everything's online? Some international students are willing to risk getting sick so they can still experience their life in another country, while others are opting out this coming year. To prevent the spread of COVID-19, many universities have decided to move courses online in the coming fall semester. Yishan Chu has been preparing for studying in France since she was an exchange student there 4 years ago.
They just told me that if I could defer for one year, and that would be safe because the COVID-19 now is very serious now.
Even though she has concerns on the health issue, she doesn't want to postpone what she has been looking forward to.
Actually, I prefer to enroll in fall because I don't want to wait for so long.
Zhirong Pan majors in piano performance at Indiana University. He decides to take a year off because he can't have the best learning experience online.
像 Zoom 我觉得有 delay， 就是譬如说我弹的这个地方，然后老师可能会在2秒钟后，或是反正就是0点几秒后，他听到，然后才会回应我这样。所以有些地方我没有办法听到很及时的反应。
He plans to have a recital this year to motivate himself to keep improving the skills when he's not at school.
让我自己有一个可以往前进的动力，这样就是至少自己不会失去了方向，然后在这一年内不知道自己要怎么走这样。
The global pandemic has influenced these students' lives and education in many ways. We've heard about students talking about their decisions, but what are parents' thoughts on this? Are they worried about their children to go back to campus? Samantha Wan from Taiwan has a son who studies in Boston. Here's what she said.
If you ask me, do you want him to go back? My answer certainly is not, because I don't feel like now in stay is safe. I don't want him to go back, even though we might have to pay a higher tuition to just take the online class. But for the safety, I think we would like him to stay at home, stay with us.
There's a reason why she is nervous. Students have experienced uncertainties such as waiting for school's decisions and being asked to leave the campus without much notice. So let's go back to see how Indiana University has been handling these issues since the beginning of the pandemic. The university brought all of its students back from China when the virus hit there in February. 6 IU students of the Chinese flagship program had to return from China due to the outbreak of the coronavirus. These students were about to start their internship in China after the Lunar New Year.
It's a little frustrating having everything cut short so abruptly. The way that the coronavirus spread, it seemed to escalate much more quickly than I had anticipated.
One of the students also shared the intense atmosphere in China right after the outbreak of the virus.
Just everybody that you would see on the street would have a mask on. And people would be very skeptical of you if you didn't. Like, they would not be happy with you at all.
The IU Health Center has received several calls about people's concern on the coronavirus, and some students even start to wear masks on campus. The growing fear of the coronavirus has driven the demand for masks. Masks are all sold out in pharmacies and online stores in Bloomington. IU announced that anyone who has been to Wuhan within the last 14 days and has had symptoms should call the health center.
There's no suspected cases on campus. There's no known cases of coronavirus on campus, but it's a day-to-day thing, and we're going to evaluate students as they come in with the symptoms that they have.
Doctors suggest that the best way to prevent the infection is to wash your hands often with soap for at least 20 seconds and avoid touching your nose and mouth with unwashed hands. Back in February, people in the United States were still debating whether people should wear masks. The COVID scare has already had an impact on the campus. And since the number of confirmed cases in the United States kept increasing, universities started to move more courses online. This is the Incident Management Center at IU. A group of people is looking carefully at a big screen to monitor the latest information on the coronavirus. The university has been monitoring the issue since the outbreak of the virus in mid-January. An executive policy group with over 30 people across all IU campuses has regular meetings every day at 8 in the morning.
We've been meeting constantly ever since. There are phone calls, emails, texts, virtually 24 hours a day at this point on this, and so there's a lot of hands on deck right now. It's really an all hands on deck moment for the universities.
Since the spread of coronavirus can impact students, faculty, and staff in many ways, different offices have to work together, from international services, overseas study, to health and safety. Faculty also gets regular communication from the university about online teaching plans if the campus closes.
There are contingency plans in place where we will jump into another level of action should something happen.
IU has issued 7 public safety advisories about travel bans and prevention tips in the past month. And now the university is facing another challenge, the spring break travel season. IU asked people who plan to travel to fill out the traveler information form.
Would give us a contact, an example of you travel to a country that currently there's not a problem. But while you're there, something rapidly changes and a problem develops with the virus. We now have a way to contact you and offer advice and counsel on how to return.
The center has received over 400 responses from students and faculty. IU suggests people should check the travel advisory on the CDC website as well. In mid-March, most universities shut down their campuses and canceled all in-person classes for the rest of the spring semester. Schools suggested students return to their permanent home, including international students. How does it feel when people have to be extra cautious during the long travel? Many international students have decided to return to their home countries after the outbreak of the coronavirus escalated, but it is also challenging for them on their way back home. The biggest concern is being infected. People now are starting to wear masks and gloves in the airports to protect themselves. The LAX airport usually are full of people, but now it's almost empty. IU master student Pei Chun-Jiang spent more than 30 hours traveling back to Taiwan. She had prepared a lot and been extra cautious during the trip.
On flight back to Taiwan, I literally just stayed on my seat and I never go to the restroom and I didn't eat. I only drank water for like 2 times.
Their families across the Pacific were looking forward to seeing them, but it wasn't like other reunions.
Kind of weird because when I first saw my parents, we cannot hug. We can only stand in distance and say hi. And then I went straight to my room.
The Taiwanese government has imposed a required 14-day quarantine on people who have been to the U.S. Travelers are to stay in their rooms and can't have close interaction with family. I asked what they would do after the quarantine. They all gave the same answer.
I think it's just really great to know actually the fresh air is nice.
The number of confirmed cases in the U.S. is still increasing. These international students are not sure about when they can return, but feel grateful to be safe with family back home. Parents across the globe are far apart from their children and worry if they would get infected on their way back home. Samantha Wen from Taiwan still remembers how it felt when she finally saw his son at the airport.
We just like so relieved. The first moment when I was in Taipei Taoyuan Airport, I picked him up. I used the alcohol, the spray all his luggage and spray himself too, and just like spray the insect. So, and after that, we asked him to change the clothes, and we put into the garbage bag, and then he can get into my car. So just like bio war, something like that kind of a feeling.
Personally, I also traveled almost 30 hours and over 8,000 miles to get back to Taiwan. My family welcomed me back, but sprayed alcohol all over me and my luggage for protection. I used the time to get to know how the government in Taiwan has dealt with COVID. The outbreak of the COVID-19 first started in China at the end of 2019. As many countries are still struggling with the virus, Taiwan has taken it under control with less than 500 cases. The island with 23 million people is only 81 miles away from the mainland China. It has close economic ties with the country, and people travel frequently between two places.
Everyone at the airport was spraying, protective spray, and our luggages were being sprayed and cleaned.
Taiwan has learned from the past experience in the 2003 SARS crisis. The COVID-19 reminds people of the similar scenario. The government banned flights from China and entrance of travelers who have been to China in the last 14 days in early February.
I think they really did make certain right decisions to protect Taiwanese people. Since we experienced the SARS in 2003, which there were a lot of sad news happened. So I think not only the government, the people are also highly alerted.
Anyone who enters Taiwan, including citizens, has to be in the mandatory 14-day quarantine. Passengers need to fill out a form to report their travel history, symptoms, and register their phone numbers, address of their quarantine location. The government tracks the phone signal to make sure they do not step out of the house. Whoever violates the home quarantine rules will face a heavy fine, up to $33,000.
If we go out, the police will receive the message. So, yeah, it's not possible to go out.
But if you follow the rules, people in quarantine will receive a free food package and stipend of $33 per day. Mass rationing system also helps the battle against the COVID. Taiwanese government has imposed an export ban on masks in late January to meet its domestic needs. The mask rationing policy allows people to buy 2 surgical masks per week with a price of 17 cents each. Passengers on the subway have to wear masks, otherwise they cannot get into the station and will get fined. To enter public places like restaurants and grocery stores, people have to wear a mask and get their temperature checked. Higher risk places like hospitals have stricter rules. They have to insert their national health insurance card to make sure there's no travel history in the past 14 days.
Everyone around me was doing all the caution of not getting the virus. So I felt much better and much safer.
An IU Taiwanese student and her American boyfriend had a different experience during the pandemic in Taiwan. As a foreigner, her boyfriend was surprised at how people handled the situation. Vicky Huang, a Taiwanese student at IU, decided to bring her American boyfriend, Jonathan White, back to Taiwan during the pandemic.
Feels like we have better guidelines from the government, like what we should do. and everyone is following that. I won't say 100%, but most of people following the rules.
Jonathan had first experienced how the Taiwanese protect themselves.
The mask was very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I didn't really want to wear it. But I know she would just get mad at me, so I was only wearing it to avoid that.
The IU couple isolated themselves for 2 weeks for extra caution. They say they didn't want to be the ones that brought the virus back and spread to others. Jonathan White was surprised how people in Taiwan followed the guidelines. Something like this. People have to go through the body temperature check before entering the department stores and restaurants.
Just overall how well they did for handling it.
The couple is now back in Bloomington to prepare for the graduation, even though it has been postponed. They say they are glad that the U.S. is taking the issue seriously now. What about people who did not go back home and stay in Bloomington? How's the life in a college town when most people are gone? After the COVID-19 struck the United States, Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb issued a stay-at-home order in late March. Some Indiana University students say they feel lonely when everyone's gone.
Will FaceTime my friends, family, like almost every day. I really need to talk to people, and if I'm on my own, I'll just like work out or just go out and go for a run.
Daily life has changed since then. Buying tons of masks, food, sanitizing products, and even toilet paper. People go out only for essentials to avoid being in contact with other people. But it's difficult for somebody to stay at home for a whole day, not even mentioning for weeks. People feel stressed staying indoors.
I feel like I needed to be outside. Yeah, cabin fever is real. And not exercising or like worrying about gaining weight or losing muscle. It's like, I feel worried about that.
And how do people feel after a few months of quarantine life? Shirley Sue said she was shocked when realizing the pandemic could change her life dramatically, including her schoolwork, personal life, and mental health.
It was lonely at first, yeah. But as time goes by and, since March and now it's already like July, I just kind of get used to that and like accept that this is the new normal.
They are trying to find a new way to live before this global health crisis ends. After the situation in the United States got worse, the CDC restricted mass gatherings and state governments issued a stay-at-home order. What can people do when they're bored in their quarantine life? Artists and musicians are getting creative. 2 music students at University of Michigan founded the 5 p.m. series. It is an online concert project that provides musicians a platform to perform during the pandemic.
Had to cancel concerts and other gigs and other events during COVID-19, and a lot of people were kind of disappointed because they had programs that they wanted to play, and also they were losing income.
Musicians across the country and even the world will play different instruments. Anna Johnson and Caitlin Larson are IU Jacob students who were supposed to have a piano and violin duet performance in Seattle, but now they are taking it to a wider audience online.
In an online setting, you can type out your comments and react to other people and send your love that way. And that's kind of an exciting thing to make things a little bit more accessible and
more interactive and helping include people.
Performers say this opportunity not only motivates them to keep practicing, but also supports the community.
It provides an opportunity for the artists to stay connected to the community. As college music students, we need kind of a community to build upon so that we can start a career. And then it also provides an outlet for audiences who are interested in watching performances who can't go to concerts.
The project also allows the audience to support performers by donating money online. People are losing income because of the virus, and it's also difficult for people who are trying to find a job now, especially for international students. It's April and it's the job searching season for graduating students. But the outbreak of the COVID-19 has made the process even harder. Chen Tang is a piano performance student at Indiana University who's going to graduate in May. She finds it difficult to get a job now.
Piano performance, we cannot just teach a student in front of the screen. So that will be the thing. So I think lots of institutions, maybe they are not going to accept like our applying.
The CDC restricts mass gathering also has impact on sports industry. Sunny Huang majors in sports business at Temple University. She has started searching jobs before the outbreak of the virus.
The sports are all canceled. They are all postponed to a further notice, so they stopped their application process. So I know that it's really hard for me to get a job right now.
The unemployment rate rises to 14.7% in April, which is a record high. And the Trump administration has been discussing about suspending international workers' visas to protect the U.S. labor market.
Since this is always my dream to work in the U.S., I still believe that if I put all my effort in finding a job in networking with professionals, I think that I still wanted to ultimately get a job in the U.S.
It is not an easy time for people who need a job during this recession. People who already have a job need to make some adjustments as well. Working from home has become the new normal. After the confirmed cases of COVID-19 spiked in March, many companies have closed their offices and asked employees to work from home. Hong Wei-Wu is a software engineer based in Seattle. He has been working from home for over 5 months. He says he misses in-person interaction with his colleagues, but he has concerns on the return to the office.
As long as there's cases in current state, I'm not sure.
And how do people feel when they have to work as a team remotely? Becca Chapin has worked as an interior designer for 1 year. She finally gets used to the office setting, but she has to adjust herself again to working from home.
Being far apart is not the easiest because you can't just yell across the room or get up and talk to them, and you really have to work on your communication skills a lot more.
She set up her own studio and had all her binders and materials at home for the designing work in March.
I could work in my PJs, and that was really nice, and it's nice to be comfortable, and I could do what I wanted, and I feel like at some point I was getting more work done because there were no interruptions. My workflow was constant. I didn't have people coming up and asking me things. The phone wasn't constantly ringing.
The new mask mandate has gone into effect in Indiana. Now she's back to the office working with mask on and adjusts herself again to the new policy. The virus has influenced the labor market and people's lives, but it also has an impact on traveling. It has become one of the riskiest things to do now. I took some videos on my way back to the school in the United States. Crowded in the plane cabin, sitting next to other people within 6 feet for hours, people have been talking about if it's safe to take a flight during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Like my parents, they think that they are afraid that I will get the coronavirus, so they just want me to protect myself and let me avoid with the virus.
As traveling is still down, major airlines cancel flights and lay off employees to get through the hard time. Julius Ye flew to the US in early June and started his career as a software engineer at Bay Area. Julius Ye says it's his new record that he didn't go to the toilet for 15 hours. It's stressful for him to travel now, but he doesn't want to give up his new job in the US.
This is a great opportunities for me, although it is dangerous.
The COVID-19 has already changed how people travel in many aspects, and it's still unknown how long will it last. Uncertainty, frustration, adjustment. These have become the most commonly used words since the COVID-19 spread across the world. For international students, the U.S. government has announced several new restrictions on student and workers' visas. People worry that they cannot come or stay in the country to finish their education. The global health crisis has changed everyone's life in many ways. In the meantime, the best advice in this changing world is just to wear your mask. Keep your hands clean and keep your distance from others.